Folks, I am proud to announce the illegal immigration crackdown has come to Nashville, Tennessee, and I couldn't be happier. For those who are unfamiliar with Nashville or Tennessee, let me break it down for you. Nashville is a blue dot in perhaps one of the reddest states in the country. So yeah, we have our green hairs and our bleeding hearts here too that seem to want criminal illegal aliens walking amongst us and wreaking havoc on our community. And sadly, our pipsqueak little mayor seems to be one of those folks. But folks, here's the beauty of it. Their advocacy for criminal illegal aliens or just illegal aliens in general really doesn't matter one itsy bitsy little bit. The Trump administration has made it very clear. You have the opportunity to self-deport or you'll be forced out, as you see here, because guess what? The free-for-all is over. So local news here in Nashville, you can post all the sob stories you want, but when you break the law, there are consequences. And I can tell you this, most of the people here in Tennessee are pretty happy that criminal aliens are being rounded up and shipped the hell out of our beautiful volunteer state. Welcome, ICE, to the volunteer state, by the way. Joining me now to discuss that and so much more is Steamboat Institute Blankley Fellow Amber Duke. Amber, you have a lofty title. Congratulations to you on that. I want to get into some of the news of the day. But speaking of immigration, I don't know if you saw DHS Secretary Kristi Noem yesterday testifying, but they wouldn't let her get a word in. It seemed like they just wanted the floor to lambast her for doing, quite frankly, her job. If you did have a chance to see it, what was your initial reaction? And do you think the Democrats represented their cause very well?
Well, this is just a classic congressional hearing where the goal is not to ascertain any information for the American people or for their legislative or policy-based efforts. This was a show. This is all about them trying to get some viral moment that they can leverage into fundraising from constituents or selling merch with their slogans on it. They did not want to actually hear from the DHS secretary. They didn't want to allow her to explain her answers. And this is just par for the course for the Democrats. They're more interested in trying to be entertainers than they are policymakers.
You're exactly right about that. I want to play just one of the many clips that we have showcasing exactly what you just said. Let's take a look.
Do you believe that the Constitution grants everyone in our country the right to due process, including non-citizens?
The administration has the authority to.
Ma'am, I'm looking for a yes or no question. Yes or no. Do you believe the Constitution? Yes, ma'am. Do you,
we have not conducted
claiming my time, Mr. Chairman? Time is yours. Okay. Secretary Noem, I'm just looking for a yes or no here. Do you believe the Constitution guarantees due process to everyone in America?
Due process is exactly what this Congress.
Yes or no? Okay, ma'am, I'll take that as a no.
Again, she didn't have any interest in hearing, the nuance of what exactly due process for illegal aliens is. But these Democrats, I don't know if they've really dug into this enough when they keep screaming this due process, due process. They seem to think that illegal aliens who barged into our country, many of them that have committed crimes since barging into our country or committed crimes in their home country, they seem to think that these people are afforded the moon and back, and that they should be able to stay for, as long as possible until they can adjudicate their claims, even though they came to this country illegally. I think the due process argument, I think that's fallen flat with most Americans. Do you think it's breaking through?
Well, it's a complete red herring, and I'm sure DHS Secretary Kristi Noem was trying to explain that because this gotcha question cannot be answered with a yes or no, because the levels of due process afforded to American citizens, particularly ones who are accused of crimes, is much higher than the due process that's afforded to an illegal alien. Immigration court is a civil court. It's not a criminal court. All the government has to do is verify that you are in the country illegally and they have the right to remove you. It's very simple. And the idea that we have to sit through a multi-year legal process for every single illegal immigrant in the country when there's 30 plus million of them is just farcical. And it obviously is an attempt by the Democrats to prohibit the removal altogether by making the process so cumbersome that you basically can't do it.
You're right. And yesterday I talked about that very generous offer the Trump administration is making to illegal aliens. Listen, We're going to give you the chance to self-deport. We're even going to get you a plane ticket. We'll give you $1,000 if, in fact, you leave. I mean, some might call that a bribe, but according to DHS facts and figures here, it's going to actually save us some money. So whereas I don't like the idea of rewarding illegal behavior with a stipend of $1,000, that actually kind of makes my blood boil and makes it curdle a little bit. But if it's cheaper, I think that's the deal of a lifetime. And I don't think Democrats want to talk about just how generous and compassionate that really is. But I think we know the answer, because this is not about compassion. As you mentioned, this is about running out the clock. They worked so hard to pack millions of illegals into this country. The thought of losing their future voters to them is something that they cannot stomach. And I think that's exactly why they don't want to talk about the art of self-deportation. I don't think they want a single one of them to leave.
No, of course not. And I had the same reaction as you, Tomi. Like, what? You came into the country illegally and you get rewarded with $1,000 and then your nice plane ticket back home. But obviously, with every policy matter, you have to weigh the benefit and the drawbacks, and it's a cost benefit analysis. And in this case, if DHS is claiming that it takes on average $17,000 to go through the process of identifying, arresting, going through immigration courts, and then ultimately removing illegal aliens, and then on average, in comparison, it's $1,000 plus maybe $2,000 or $3,000 for whatever flights they have to get out of the country, I'm willing to save that money if it means that more people are leaving the country and that it's being done more expeditiously because they don't have to play the due process game that the Democrats are trying to force them through.
Here's my one concern about it, though. I'm worried that these people are going to self-deport. They're going to go back to their country of origin, right? They're going to take their $1,000. I'm worried we get a Democrat administration, and there has already been a promise by the Trump administration that they could come back legally in the future if they do in fact self-deport. And I'm not against that, but I feel like all these people, they're like, okay, what we'll do is we'll take our $1,000, we'll go back to our country, and then as soon as a Democrat's in office, they'll just open up the borders again. They've already said that we could have an opportunity to come back, and I'm afraid they're going to come back, and I'm afraid the Democrats are going to get them a 4-star hotel and healthcare and schooling and lodging and really whatever else their heart desires. I think that's, if you look at what the Democrats have done, that's a pretty safe bet for the illegal aliens that either way, like, they're going to get taken care of. And I guess that is what I fear coming down the road here.
I'm worried about that too, but I think, to be fair, even if they were going through the normal deportation process and they could have that ban of 5-10 years from entering the U.S. illegally if they are put through the deportation process, it's unlikely that a Democratic administration would enforce those civil penalties or criminal penalties anyway. So I think no matter how they leave the country, it's a wide open door for them to come back in if a Democratic president takes over, which I think is just a reminder for people that elections are not just, 4 years and then everything's perfect. This is a continuous game, a continuous process that people have to be tapped into because so many things that have been done so far by the Trump administration without codification by Congress legislatively can quickly be undone with the stroke of a pen.
And it will. I have zero confidence that the Democrats would ever secure that border. And it's going to be a hard sell from them if they do get back in power and they open it back up again. I think people are going to be pretty mad. But then again, for them, they didn't even care this last go around when people were getting fed up with it. I mean, they have an end goal, and they're going to march towards that end goal as fast as possible, but patiently if they need to, because they want to import voters. And that's what this is all about to me. And when people talk about, well, Obama deported, yeah, of course he did. Because during the Obama era, pre-2020 mass mail-in voting, changing voting laws, and everything that was done with the COVID pandemic to our voting system, that wasn't even on Democrats' mind that they could possibly import voters and get these people voting. Like, they didn't think of that. They're like, yeah, we love illegal aliens because of the cheap labor, but that was it. It wasn't until, I think, 2020 that the light bulb went off in the Democrat Party that we can find a way to get these people voting. So that's the whole difference here. Everybody that says, oh, Democrats used to, of course they did, because they didn't see the giant upside that they see now. They're going to open it back up again. It's our job to make sure a Democrat doesn't get elected. It's going to happen at some point, though. So I caution people with getting complacent. Now, next thing I want to talk about is the Department of Defense and our Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, saying wokeness is over. the upholding of the trans military ban, at least for the time being. People are really upset about that. They want people who are questioning their entire gender and cutting off body parts to serve in the military. Like, what could go wrong? But he made it pretty clear how he feels about wokeness being dead in the military, leaving no room for doubt. Let's take a listen.
We are leaving wokeness and weakness behind. No more pronouns, no more climate change obsession, no more emergency vaccine mandates, no more dudes in dresses. We're done with that shit.
I mean, he pretty much summed it up for me.
Oh, it was killer. He absolutely nailed it. And it's so obvious when you talk to people who have served in the military that wokeness is a detriment to military readiness and social cohesion. They point out consistently that the most important thing when you are serving with your fellow service members is that you have to find what unifies you, not what divides you. Otherwise, you're going to be bickering, you're going to be at each other's throats, there's going to be resentment. You have to find a way to work with your brothers and sisters, regardless of however they identify, what color they are, where they were born. It doesn't matter. And I think it's great news that the Supreme Court, at least preliminarily, has rejected that injunction from the lower courts on the trans military ban. This is a classified mental illness, right? The idea that you would give anyone else with, let's say, schizophrenia, depression, any clinical mental illness, the idea that you would give them access to weapons, that you would consider them ready to serve in the field is absurd. This is the only category where somehow the left has successfully argued for the past 5 to 10 years that they should get a pass, some kind of special exemption to serve despite not being in their right mind. It's crazy town.
Now, the whole thing I saw on CNN, an extended clip with Scott Jennings being one of the only voices of reason on that panel. But the whole back and forth there was like, oh, you know, Trump could wake up tomorrow and say that black people are a detriment to the military. And it's like these people are completely ignoring the facts that you just laid out there. And the left cannot have it both ways. Either they need this gender affirming care because these people are volatile and, you know, they have got mental health issues. That's their whole justification for pumping hormones in people and puberty blockers and surgeries and mutilation and all this is that these people need help. Well, then you're saying that the same people you're saying need this help that is irreversible, by the way, you're saying that those people should then serve in the military. Well, if they need help and they want to cut off their body parts, we got a problem here, you know? And I'm not saying that those people aren't good people. They probably are. But they're not the kind of people that should be serving in the military if they've got those issues. Like, it's just, it doesn't make logical sense. And the military is not a social experiment. You know, somebody who's questioning their gender can work at Starbucks. And the worst thing that can happen is that, you know, you get oat milk instead of almond. But the military, that's not a place for somebody who doesn't even know what gender they are. And if they need to figure that out, go for it. But I just don't understand why some people just insist upon making everything some kind of an experiment where the consequences of failure are literally death. And I don't think they're ever going to let it go, Amber. I really don't.
I don't either. And it's completely mind-blowing. I mean, we didn't even mention the fact that a lot of these people transition while they are in the military. So not only are taxpayers on the hook for these sex changes, but that's also time away from training, from service. This could be years-long processes where these people are collecting military paychecks and benefits, but not actually giving service to their country. And that's, you know, depending on how many transgender people are actually serving in the military, that's a pretty significant percentage of the force that's not available and ready to serve. That is a disadvantage for military readiness. So even outside of the fact that you are allowing mentally ill people to have a special exemption from what would typically be a reason for you to not be able to join in the first place, but then you join, you get free sex changes, and you have time away from the field. There's not a single element of this that makes sense.
No. And it's the same woke military, by the way, that was discharging people for not getting a COVID vaccine.
Right.
The idiocy never ends, but thank goodness for Pete Hegseth. I just got to say that. Let's talk about that. Actually, that segues into the perfect soundbite that I want to play for you. Gain of function research. Whoever decided that was a good idea, Fauci. Thank goodness we're done with that stupidity, too. Here's President Trump making that official. Let's take a listen.
The first relates to gain-of-function research. Gain-of-function research is a type of biomedical research where pathogens are adulterated, viruses are adulterated to make them more potent or to change the way that they function. Many people believe that gain-of-function research was one of the key causes of the COVID pandemic that struck us in the last decade. What this executive order does, first of all, it provides powerful new tools to enforce the ban on federal funding for gain-of-function research abroad. It also strengthens other oversight mechanisms related to that issue and creates an overarching strategy to ensure that biomedical research in general is being conducted safely and in a way that ultimately protects human health more.
It's a big deal. Could have been that we wouldn't have had the problem we had. Right?
A lot of people say that, sir.
If we had this done earlier. Thank you.
Long overdue. Thank goodness he's doing it now. Fauci, man, is shameless. Like he got his pardon from Joe, probably with the auto pen, who knows. But Fauci, I think we still have a lot more we need to hear from that little fella, and we're never going to get those answers. But at least this is a step in the right direction, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. Fauci escaping accountability with his $400,000 a year pension is absolutely despicable. The American people should be furious about this. This is a great start, but it's actually not enough. This executive order is specifically about funding of foreign research into gain of function. We also need to follow up with a domestic ban, and that's in the works. But right now they have a 120-day review period, which, could very well lead to a ban. But the fact that we still have so many faceless, nameless bureaucrats in the NIH who are really resistant to any type of regulation means that Americans need to keep the pressure on through this 120-day review period and make sure that at the end of it, the NIH director is very clear that this is not going to happen, not just in China, in Russia, or whatever other countries that we are funding with federal dollars, but also in the United States.
Yeah. So stupid that this is even a thing, but the government does stupid things. Hopefully we're on a correction course. Another thing I want to talk to you about, the anti-Jew, anti-Israel protests, they're still going on college campuses. Luckily, these universities, probably because they fear losing funding, maybe, donor dollars, they're starting to crack down a little bit more. But when you look at the University of Washington and this takeover, this footage from what they were doing and burning furniture and all, this is terrorism. And it's actually shocking to me that this is allowed to get to this level. I understand these liberal lefty states and universities. I understand that, they have a real resistance to law and order. But how do you get this far into a quote unquote protest that you're now lighting things on fire like this and attacking officers? I understand why people are going into the trades and not going to the four-year university, at least in these places, because why would anyone want to be around that?
And now we see a lot of students who are graduating high school and going to college, not going to Ivy Leagues, not going to the Northeast Corridor, avoiding these liberal arts colleges, and instead going to state schools in the South because they feel like it might be a reprieve from the woke nonsense on a lot of campuses. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. But unfortunately, these campus administrators for the past 10, 15 years have just been repeatedly capitulating to the worst students who are more interested in activism than learning and developing critical thinking skills. And they have gotten themselves to this point where they can't enforce basic decorum. And in this case, I do applaud the police officers who eventually went into the University of Washington and got these protesters out of the building, put out the fire. But guess what? The next day, all of them were released from jail. None of them were held. And it doesn't look like the university has announced any consequences for these students. There should be expulsion. They should be held to the fullest extent of the law through criminal proceedings. And it looks like, once again, they're going to get a slap on the wrist. Compare this, of course, to the people who trespassed in the Capitol on January 6th, who were held for years and years in pretrial detention, received excessive sentences. There's still been no accountability for the riots of 2020. There's still been very little accountability for these campus rioters. It's absolutely disgusting and egregious, the double standard that exists with law and order in this country.
And these people are so stupid. They don't even know what they're protesting in the name of. I think they wanted the school to divest from Boeing, that over the last, I don't know how many years, have given $100 million to that university for the engineering program. And these little twerps are out there being like, divest from Boeing. And then I guarantee you, these little idiots are flying on Boeings. I guarantee you think these people are not flying. You think when they get done with their protests and they go on their spring break, or I don't know, their Dungeons and Dragons conventions or whatever, Comic-Con, I don't know what these weirdos are into, but you think they're not flying on a Boeing? Like, please. This is just an excuse for people to act feral and do it in the name of something. And this is why the university system is failing young people, and parents are failing young people as well. Last thing I want to talk to you about is a little bit of a lighter, more fun topic. Kamala Harris, she went to the Met. We have the photos. Her and Dougie Doug went to the Met Gala. I think the Met Gala is honestly, quite frankly, stupid. I think people dress stupid. I think I saw someone wearing a piano. I just think it's dumb that people are dressing in Halloween costumes and, you know, they think that this is the height of fashion, but whatever. What do you think about Kamala making an appearance there?
This is probably the worst thing she could have done. The Democratic Party has increasingly been perceived as the party of the elites. She obviously had a really difficult time connecting with the average American. She lost the working class voters that went from Trump to Biden in 2020 and lost every single swing state. So for her to go to this hoity-toity event in New York with all of these celebrities who are paying tens of thousands of dollars for these ridiculous costumes was just the worst political strategy. I mean, whoever told her this was a good idea should be fired. And by the way, I've been in trouble for criticizing Kamala Harris's outfit before, but I'll say it again. It was the theme of the event, Tomi, was tailoring. This dress was tailored to hell. It did not look good.
It did not look good. She's not a great dresser, but I won't hold that against her. I also, it's like tailoring was the theme, but also black dandyism. I don't even know what the frick that is, but we're all over Sydney Sweeney because she wore a dress that a white actress, it was like in the theme of a white actress. So people were all frustrated because, you know, either you're culturally appropriating or you're not in theme because you're not honoring a black designer or a black icon. It's like, you just can't win if you're white, to be quite honest. And these events are so stupid. I mean, I think there were some folks that looked good. Most people looked weird. And they go and they celebrate themselves and then they lecture the rest of us on how, you know, we shouldn't be driving gas-powered vehicles and, you know, in the same token, they hate Tesla now. These people are ridiculous. Kamala's ridiculous. I've noticed she goes to events where she doesn't have to speak more often than not. And that's a better idea for her. Just a photo, a still photo in black and white. That might be the best mode for Kamala moving forward. I'm glad she's still getting invited to events, though. And I hope Joe does well in The View tomorrow, too, because, you know, it makes the left really nervous when Joe talks. So it makes me really excited. Before I let you go, what do you anticipate we're going to see from Joe and Jill, his handler, tomorrow on The View?
That's what I was going to mention is Dr. Jill is going to be there too. So I would expect a lot of her taking the questions away from Joe, filling in the gaps when he starts to lose his train of thought. This is going to be the Jill show. I don't think Biden is capable of even sitting down for, like a 10-minute interview. It's going to be a disaster unless she's right there, just really grasping onto the ropes. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, you know, I don't expect hard-hitting questions, but even simple questions might go real sideways. Thank God it's live, though. I think that's a treat for all of us, quite honestly. And Joe also must be really hard up for money because he's continuing to go out and do events when he really should just stay home. But, you know, Jill's like, hey, we could still make some money off this. So go and do speeches, keep yourself relevant. That's what they're doing here. It's really sick. It's elder abuse. But, you know, if you're going to go anywhere, go to The View, I suppose. Thank you so much for taking all the time today. I really appreciate it. Hope to have you back soon.
Thanks, Tomi. Appreciate it.
Of course. All right. UConn standout and the top pick in this year's WNBA draft, Paige Bueckers, is once again thrusting her forced white guilt center court because, heaven forbid, a white person just accomplishes something without apologizing to the woke mob for it. It's time for final thoughts. Oh, so here we go again, folks. Now, I wish that this headline read, "Standout female athlete stands up for the integrity of women's sports." But no, instead, alas, we have another talented, self-made white female athlete that cannot make it through an interview without the obligatory expression of white guilt. The WNBA's Dallas Wings new star Paige Bueckers is pulling a Caitlin Clark again with her comments in a recent Time magazine interview. So Bueckers feels she gets more marketing opportunities and visibility because she's white, and she decries the privilege of all white people, really. She also hopes to counteract it by, I guess, crapping on her race as a way to achieve equality. You know, it's weird because the NBA and the WNBA happen to be predominantly black, so the whole equality DEI thing might not be the best argument, not a lot of diversity there, but really, girl, you can't just celebrate your success without kissing the ring. This, of course, not unlike the eerily similar Caitlin Clark statements of the past, where she said her own privilege and prestige, her whiteness, accounts for her success. Also, given the fact that those two and all other white athletes are made to feel like crap if they don't make comments like that, tells me being white, if anything, especially in pro athletics, isn't exactly a privilege, but rather a cross to bear. So for me, Paige and Caitlin, they're on their own. Let the woke mob have them. But word to the wise, they'll never like you, girls. You can bend like a pale, privileged pretzel. It'll never be enough. The woke mob will still eat you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So best of luck out there. Those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch full episodes of the show on Outkick.com and Fox Nation. Please do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.